Okay, so we're continuing our discussion about the two ways of subduing the animal soul, right? We're talking about the battle between the godly soul and the animal soul. We're, by the way, in the middle of chapter 9 of Tanya. And the godly soul, from its perspective, wishes to completely dominate the body, um, more than just dominate, but overtake the body. And reminds me when a few years ago, there was something in my Chabad work. I don't want to get too specific. That I was asking help from someone who wasn't Chabad. If they could make some sort of referral. He says, "Well, I actually don't want to refer a Chabad rabbi there because when Chabad comes, they take over." And
Uh,
I had no response because he's not wrong.
the secret
But
is out.
that's it. Anyways, so if we can use that as a metaphor, hopefully we somewhat align with the godly soul, right? That is our goal, anyways. But to use that as a metaphor for the godly soul wishes to completely take over every last bit of the body, your fingernails, your toes, your left ventricle of your heart, whatever it is, you name it, the godly soul wants it, right? And it doesn't just want, you know, the entire battlefield, but it wants even the home base of the animal soul. It wants that too. It wants to, and specifically, it wants to do two things. It wants to do iskafia and ishapcha. Iskafia we described as bending or subduing or temporarily restraining the the other side, and ishapcha means transforming the other side. Um, so iskafia is step one. That's, it's almost like stop the bleeding. And ishapcha is transform it. Let's let's actually utilize this power, the passion of the animal soul for holiness. So I'm going to start with the words l'shanoisa ulhapcha bitanuge elam hazeh la'avas Hashem, to transform it and to change it over from the pleasures of this world to the love of Hashem. So the ultimate victory in the war against the animal soul is not only when a person gets rid of his taivas, stops desiring negative things or even animalistic things, but rather that the person transforms the power of desire into holiness. So instead of being following what the animal soul tells it to be drawn after, which is materialistic things, it should be drawn after with the same enthusiasm to love Hashem and to attach himself to Hashem. How does that happen? It happens when the love of God spreads into the left part of the heart. So the left part of the heart feels the love of God. And then, since the left part of the heart is all about love, that the entire body will be filled with love, not of candy and sushi, but instead love of God. Um, Now, obviously, to create such a change in the animal soul doesn't happen overnight. It requires intense labor. Talk about a labor of love, right? That it's step after step. As he says, it begins by changing it over and transforming it. And so, in the beginning of the process of this transformation, it begins with this kafia. You just forcibly break the power of taiva. As we said last week, that you want to eat lunch because it tastes good. Wait 5 minutes. Just l'shem mitzvahs, for the sake of subduing your animalistic desire. Um, and and only afterwards can the animal soul start appreciating the goodness and the light that exists in loving Hashem, and now it won't present as much opposition to worldly pleasures. And ultimately, it'll not just appreciate conceptually, oh yes, a person can love and appreciate godliness, but in itself will start appreciating and loving godliness. Kamaisha Kasuv, as it's written in the Shema that we say every morning and every night, B'chol levavcha, with your whole heart, Bishnei Yitzarecha, which means with your two Yitzers, with your two desires. So the idea of transforming the animal soul from enjoying this world to loving Hashem, that is really hinted to in this message of the Shema. As our sages teach us that when the Torah tells us you should love Hashem with all your hearts, with your two hearts, it means that not only your godly soul, meaning your godly heart, so to speak, your godly love should love God, but even the Yetzer Hara, even your negative love, even your negative inclination should also turn and transform itself or be transformed to love God. Now, that sounds counterintuitive. How can a Yetzer Hara, right, as it's called, it's an evil inclination. How can an evil inclination be inclined to good? So the answer is that the power of desire in the animal soul, at its very core, is not a power to desire evil in and of itself. Because at the very core, it's just the power of desire. And it could really desire good in the very same way and in the very same level that it's currently desiring evil. And that's why we say that somebody who has a very strong animal soul, somebody who might have engaged in all sorts of radical behaviors that are totally, off the deep end, so to speak, that person specifically has the potential to reach the greatest heights spiritually. Why? Because this is a radical person. Now, he can do radically terrible things, but that same radicalness could be used for holiness. Reminds me of the story of a chassid who came, I believe, to the Alter Rebbe, and he presented a problem. The problem was, as some would call it, a problem child. He had a son who was giving him problems. The guy was, he was a little radical. He was into horse racing. He was into gambling. He was into all sorts of things. And so the Alter Rebbe asked him, "Tell me, you like horses?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." It's like, "Tell me, why are horses so good?" So, this is obviously all a lead up, but says, "Well, a good horse can really, race at however many miles an hour, and it can do incredible things." So the Alter Rebbe says, "Well, I don't understand. Yeah, it's true that a fast horse can get you places very quickly. But, what happens if you come to a fork in the road and the horse is running and it's going 30 miles an hour or whatever, and instead of turning to the left, you turn to the right, or instead of turning to the right, you turn to the left. And within 5 minutes, you're 2.5 miles off the beaten path, right? What good did your fast horse do for you?" So the young man looks at the Alter Rebbe and he says, "Well, with all due respect, Rabbi, that same fast horse that got you off the path in 5 minutes can get you right back on the path in 5 minutes." So the Alter Rebbe paused. He looked at him and he said, "Aha, aha." That was it. No further words had to be spoken. So this is the idea the Alter Rebbe was telling this boy. You have a horse inside of you. It's so powerful. It's so full of energy. Why don't you just redirect it to where it belongs? And sure enough, the young man did become a Baal Tshuva, changed his life around indeed. And he became the first religious horse racer to win a race. No, I'm kidding. So back to what we were saying here. So the power of desire can be transformed from something that is desiring negative things to something that's desiring good things. So the fact that the animal soul desires animalistic things and worldly things, that's not something it's forced to do. It's not required. It's not necessary for its identity. The main thing is that it's drawn after things that it wants. It's a pleasure-seeking entity. I forgot which philosopher says, we're all just pleasure-seeking beings. One of the famous, not Jung, one of the Jewish psycho something.
Skinner,
Skinner?
B.F. Skinner,
No, no. Freud? Maybe it was Freud. I'm not sure.
Freud,
Well, one of these famous
Freud or
people.
Fraud, was it?
Anyways, you know, it's not wrong when a psychologist recognizes that there's a part of us that is just completely pleasure seeking. The only thing is they're seeing only half the picture. They're only seeing the animal soul. They're not seeing the godly soul. So it's true. The animal soul is a pleasure seeking being. Now, whether that pleasure comes from godliness or that pleasure comes from physical things, lahavdil, that's a matter of, it's a matter of work. You can work on that pleasure seeking power to be directed in the right way. So if a person is going to serve Hashem to such a point that his animal soul will recognize that the greatest pleasure possible is divine pleasure, it's going to be right on board. It's going to be like, wow, I thought I knew what was good in life until I discovered godliness, right? So when the animal soul comes to this appreciation, that Yetzer Hara, as it's called, really it's not a Yetzer Hara in essence. It's a Koach HaMisaveh. It's a power of desire. So it could very very understandably be transformed to good. It seeks pleasure. Where that pleasure comes from, of course, it's going to initially seek the low hanging fruit, the easily attractive pleasures that are here in this world. But if given the taste of godliness and given to appreciate, well, first by subduing it and forcing it to not enjoy this world and just force feeding it godliness, eventually be like, this is kind of delicious.
Uh-huh.
Right? Um, so in order to actually make this happen, in order for the godly soul to transform the Yetzer Hara into actual good, it's not enough to just spread it, for the godly soul to spread its influence into the left side of the heart. But the godly soul actually has to, on its own, reach an intense, high level of pleasure and an appreciation in the love of God. And when that elevated level of pleasure spreads over to the left side, that's when it's possible for the Yetzer Hara to be transformed to good. So this is what he's describing now. V'hainu, this means, how do you get this done? This is a term that we say on Rosh Chodesh and Chol Hamoed, and holidays, in our Shemona Esrei and grace after meals, we say Ya'ala v'yave v'yagia, that it should go up, it should come, it should reach. We're asking God that our prayers should reach Him. So the Alter Rebbe is borrowing those terms, saying that this person who's working on himself should go up and reach and arrive at lemadregas ahava rabba, to the level of much love, v'chiba yisera, and an increased cherishedness, mi madregas ava aza kirish be'esh, from the level of intense love like a fiery flame. So what he's saying here is that in general there's two types of love. The number one is ava aza kirish be'esh. There's a fiery kind of love, and that's a feeling of thirst towards godliness, like somebody who is very far away from his loved one, and his heart is on fire with a feeling of thirst and yearning when you miss somebody intensely. And then there's another level, which is ava rabba b'chiba yisera, an increased love and an added cherishedness. That's an even higher love than this fiery love. So in other words, there's fiery love, which is when you miss someone, and then there's water love, which is even higher than that, and that's a more intense love. So that's the level of love we have to reach to in order to have any hopes of transforming our animal soul to love God. Now, what is this more intense love? So, of course, we go back to the book of love, Shir Hashirim. So, Vehi Anikres Bakasav. This intense love is referred to in the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, chapter 7, verse 7. Ava betanugim, love in delight, which is a feeling of delight from something that is beloved to him. In other words, when you feel that fiery love, the love that's initiated or felt when you're distanced from someone, and that feeling of thirst towards someone, that's more of a distance love. Whereas what we're describing here is a closeness love. It's love of delight. Oh, I love being with you. That's a much deeper love than the I love you and I miss you. So how do you distinguish between these two types of love and loving Hashem? So the analogy is given with a father to his son. So there is, for example, a son who is very far away from his father, and his heart is on fire, is feeling like he misses his father, and he yearns his father. He wants to be with his father, and he's always asking, when can I finally see my father's face? However, when this son, which previously was at a very far away place from his father, finally succeeds in fulfilling his desire and actually returns to his father's home, and he stays in his father's home for a duration of time. Now, this level of love, of a yearning type of love, is not really applicable. You can't say that he has this burning fire to get close to his father. You're right there. You're living together. You're in the same house. You're eating dinner together. However, are you going to now say that's it? His love dissipated? Because his yearning dissipated, now he doesn't love his father anymore? Of course not. On the contrary, now a deeper level of love, a deeper layer of love is now uncovered. Because the whole idea of why you felt that love when you were far away is because ultimately you want to become close. But now that you've reached your objective and the love is happening, that is certainly no less of a love. However, this is a different type of love. It's not emphasized in a way of yearning, but it's a love of just pure delight. Like, wow, I get to be next to my father. It reminds me, I was at a funeral yesterday, and one of the grandchildren was saying a story that they were at, forget what it was, but there was some mascot over there, and he goes up to the mascot and says, "Hey, mascot," whatever the mascot was, this is my grandmother." And it was so profound. He was 3 years old. But but normally you think, like typically you go to your grandmother and you say, "Look, that's the mascot from my favorite movie," right? But here it was the other way around. This is my grandmother. Like I'm sure you've been waiting to see her all your life. That love of like, wow, I get to be with my grandmother. So similarly, perhaps you can describe that's what he's trying to say here with the love that the son feels to his father. Like, I'm right here. Like, this is the best thing in the world. So going back to the love of godliness, there's the fiery love of feeling distance, and then there's the ava b'tanugim, there's the love of delight. That like, wow, I have God inside of me. It's like the best feeling ever. And now the Rebbe says, "Li'is'anig al Hashem eino lamaba," to take delight in Hashem, similar to the way it'll be experienced in the world to come. So the truth is, to love God in such a way of just pure delight, like, wow, I'm connected with God. That's something that we only really get to experience as a reward for all our effort in this world. And when we go to the next world after 120, we get to enjoy the shine of the Shekhinah. We get to enjoy godliness. In other words, all you got to do all day is be like, wow, I'm with God. It's the best thing in the world. But certain tzaddikim merit to experience this kind of thing while they're here in this world, a neshama in a body, and they get to experience this delight similar to what's experienced in the future world. And ultimately, this is what the godly soul wants. It wants a person to not just be on fire, like, oh, I want to get close to God, but just to feel that, wow, I'm with God, and this is like the best thing in the world. And only when you reach that level, only when you reach that level of, wow, I get to be with God, and you truly are just like having the time of your life, that is objectively the best pleasure in the world anyone could ever experience. And when you say it that way, the center of pleasure in your body, the animal soul, is like, I want in. I want some of that. That's when you can finally tell the animal soul, here, come on board. Let's enjoy this together. All right. So that's a little bit of chapter 9 of Tanya, and we'll continue more next week. Mitzvah Hashem.